We appreciate all of it. Let's go to our main man, Chris Franklin, joining us here on Birds 365. We haven't talked to Chris in a little bit. I'm looking forward to seeing my main man, Chris Franklin. Follow him at C Franklin News on X and read all his work at nj.com. Chris, happy Football Friday, brother. How you doing?
I'm hungry now. I always talk about barbecue and grilling and everything. Thanks. I'm doing
Chris,
great. How you guys?
Do you have any skill on the grill? I'll tell you this, and I mean this with respect. I look at you. I see middle of the pack talent on the grill. Am I right or am I wrong?
Wow.
I think when you look at the draft services you're looking at, that was Mel Kiper-ish on that one. Say it's your door on that one. Nah, I got good skills on the grill.
All right,
that's insulting.
I thought you were. I was hoping you would say I was way wrong.
Oh.
Now if you get like D Gunn, he's like the #1 pick on the grill. Yeah,
I'm not. Nobody's touching him. All different things smoking. Nah, nobody's touching him right now.
I'm like a day 3 guy with upside. Maybe you trade up to get me on day 3. maybe you Kaylee Ringo me. My love of grilling is to get away from everybody else. So some sense. Solitude.
Give me a late first, early second. I'm not going to say I'm like a pit master. I'm not any one of those guys too, but I'm my way around it.
All right. A lot of upside with Chris Franklin. Never doubt. That was insulting, Zander. That was insulting.
I didn't mean to insult you, Chris. I wasn't sure. Sometimes you look at a guy and you're like, that guy can grill up a steak, everything. I didn't see it, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm going to go off of this now. Just reflect and sit in the corner and just think about what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
No, you got to get the grill out is what you got to do. And then you got to tweet me a picture of it. And then I'll have to eat my words publicly to the Birds 365 community.
But I don't, like that's another, like D-Gon will do videos and pictures. Like I've never been a picture guy for my food. Like people go to restaurants and they take pictures of what they order. I'm like, that's not for me.
Oh yeah, that and video too. Whatever one it is, you got to share the experience with everybody. That's what social media was about.
If I'm eating with my family, my sister's got this huge Instagram account that they have, and it's great. They're really awesome at it. But they got to film like everything before we. It's like don't eat. We got to film first. I'm like, oh, all right. So I'm John. That's my world right there, man.
Yeah, I don't want anybody knowing where I am either. They can GPS you down.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Put the metadata. Come on now. Androids. You gotta use it. Put the metadata, man.
Right. When you're doing that reflecting, Chris Franklin, how much reflecting goes on about the Eagles and their defense and all the changes?
There's some things I look at. It has me a little like, all right, this might be another slow start. In that one, I look certainly at the secondary. You mentioned Keely Ringo. Basically, you get that outside corner besides Quinyon Mitchell. Like, even if you put Hooper there, it's almost like it's more of the trepidation. We haven't seen it, so it's like you got the reservations for it. So I look at that. I look at Nkuba, like if he winds up being a starting safety, whoever's at that starting safety. And then I look at the depth at the edge rusher itself. Like I feel confident in Nolan Smith. I feel confident in Jalen Hunt. And even if you have to use your hot candles from there, like I've seen enough like his game, I think translates well to his defense is when you get to the Zizo Delari, if he's going to stay on the field of rough and not get injured, or Josh Uche. Like we saw against the Eagles, it's like, wow, all right, he's not that bad. Or you look a couple years ago, but other than that, it's like cricket. So those are the things I'm worried about in that defense.
Yeah. Vic had mentioned all the changes. And last year going in at this time, people were saying the same thing. Like, what is this defense going to be? And all of a sudden it takes off. But I don't know if that's something you can count on year after year after year. Like we look at this offense and we say, all right, 10 of 11 starters back. They're going to be pretty good. It's a matter of how good. And part of it is just contracts. And those guys were entrenched. And the defensive guys are coming contract-wise with Carter and Smith and Mitchell and DeJean down the road. So it'll change a little bit in the coming years. But to assume Moro Ojoma is going to have the jump Milton Williams had, to assume Kaylee Ringo is going to play up to the level of Darius Slay, to assume Trotter's going to play like Nakobe Dean and Makuba is going to play like CJ GJ, boy, when you think about it that way, it's like, Is it possible? Anything's possible.
Yeah, anything's possible. I think a little bit. I think you look at the coaching staff and you look at the raw talent of guys. And the coaching staff, we look at Christian Parker and his history of developing guys and making sure the right thing. Because I remember a couple of years ago when you're asking the Broncos general manager at the combine, hey, what do you think about Christian Parker? He's said he's had a lot of he's helped a lot out. And he's very underrated in terms of his personnel, helping the personnel process. So he knows these guys in and out. You look at his track record, Patrick Surtain. I'll take that. I'm not saying
I'll take that.
Really
Yeah. Can we get Patrick Surtain? Yeah.
So you look at the stuff that these guys have, and you look at the actual talent these guys have. The only thing when you look at, I'll stick with the secondary. This one. You look at Keeley. I just don't want to be as handsy if he gets beat off the line initially, so that we see because you know how flag happy this league can be when it comes to legal contact. I just want him to be controlled in his hands and not panic if he gets beat off the line. And he's got good recovery speed, in my opinion. That's why I look at it that way. So, yeah, I think that I don't have to trip. I think that tough schedule plays a role in it. That's the gauntlet going in front out that. So I think that's where it starts slow, and I think we'll see almost the same type of this defense is what's going on with this one. This team is going crazy. This is a letdown, a hangover. That shoes they're young guys. And so once they start to, and then all the new fits, once they start to know how each other plays off each other, I think we'll see an improvement probably around week 4, week 5.
What do you think of that edge rusher room, Chris? We were thinking about adding to that edge rusher room. I don't know how you feel about it. You think Jalen and Nolan, assuming they're going to be the 2 starters, is that enough for this defense to, have a real run at trying to repeat as Super Bowl champions, or is that going to cost them? What do you think?
I think it'll be able to hold them steady, at least for that time being. The good thing, I think, I look at Nolan. I have no qualms with Nolan at all. I think I look at him. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's starting to he really took off in the middle of last year. And I'm starting to see it more and more. He's a little more confident. He's playing that. I hate saying it. I'm now caught myself saying it. High motor. Yeah, he plays that stuff. That's the stuff with. So I look at him and it's fine. I think it's fine. Jalen, I think it's more just a matter of just him getting more playing time and just seeing what he did well last year. And when he was thrown in there, because Bryce Huff, I see it. So everybody was looking better than Bryce Huff at the time. So I look at him, I look at his development. I think he's going to do a lot better in terms of that. I just worry about the depth. And I really worry about the depth in terms of if they don't have Ojulari there for a while, if they don't get Uche there sitting there, do you maybe move Jomo, in the sense that you play them more on a rundown? If these guys can't play runs, they get worn down because they're not big in stature. There's no solid bigger guy, and that changes with this type of league. It's more like the odd man look, so you don't have the lighter guys on the outside. But I think that's one of the things. They're not getting Trey Henderson. They're not getting Trey if they're a guy like that. But they have enough tools where if they need another rotation guy, they got enough draft picks they can throw at a team and go, you know what? Yeah, let's get somebody in here to fill this in, and you run with that.
Well, if they struggle against the run, Vic's going to roll out that 6-man front. That's how he's going to stop it. Which he did in New Orleans last year. Remember that game? That was quite the game early in the season. There was a lot of panic early in the season. Dallas Goedert, the Keystone Cops play, saved them in that game that ran into each other. They did shut down that running game. I think New Orleans was averaging 200 plus yards. Yeah, it was like 3 games, but whatever. And he rolled out that 6-man front. And I think, it was interesting. We asked Vic a couple of weeks ago, we asked him, when did you know that this was going to be a really good defense? And he said probably week 6, week 7. So it took him that long to say, all right, we're pretty good. So I think to your point of there might be some hiccups early, I think people should be prepared for that. I think there were some hiccups early last year, and I think people forget that. So I can see that part of it happening. You were talking about the secondary and developing players and Christian Parker, all true. What do you think's happened with Sidney Brown? Just not a fit for everybody seems to forget about Sidney Brown. He's getting the most first team reps, but everybody seems to Makuba. Just he's a big guy. Sidney's one of my favorite people on this team. Sidney.
Yeah.
Great dude. Why do you think it doesn't resonate?
I think it's two things. I think it's scheme and then it's availability. I think it's scheme wise, there fits in there. What I, I think we his in the past he's been able, well, at least in college, he was able to cut off the reader routes, and he did well that way too. I don't know what it is. Maybe it has to do with the availability and the injury, getting those reps actually in live game action. Whereas he's not able to do that as much or effectively. I like what you like personally. I like what you can do. You put him in the box, a physical guy near the line. You can put him out there. I think as a to be able his anticipation and stuff like that. I just look at when you have say put CD Lamb out there in the slot and he's forced to roll down. Then I think that's where I think Vic has his trepidations a little bit. And then the injury history. We've seen this as many games as he has in the past. Not his fault, obviously, because try just the matters happen. I think they just rolled out. They want somebody that can be out there a little bit more as well too. So if anything, I think this offseason is used to say, okay, what do I actually have in Sydney? How does he play and get these looks? So you get him out early, especially in these OTAs and minicamp, and see what he can do if he's able to do up to it. And then training camp, you go, all right, I've seen this here. Let me tinker with this one here and just make it an open competition from here on out. But I think it was more of a almost like a get to know you, I think, with in terms of Sydney and Vic and seeing what he can do.
I'm curious there because do you think, real quick, Chris, do you think Reed Blankenship is a lock to be re-signed?
I think it depends on the money. Obviously, with everything comes to money. I think he's a high priority because you keep going back and you looking like, okay, see this too. His ability to play center field and I think especially with the production too, and safety is very, very hard in the system to play. And then you don't want to keep rotating around. I know you have the draft picks to replace him if you want to get like one of the top guys and move up and get basically do whatever you want in 2026 to replace him. But I still think that safety is very, very important in the system, and you're asking them to do a lot. And that's why I'm with Nkuba. I think he's starting this for two. I think it's going to be a learning curve early on with him too. Middle linebacker safety in this system is really tough. So
yeah, I'm just wondering. I'm wondering if we're overlooking like Sidney Brown, like John just said, where it's like maybe Sidney Brown and Makuba is who they're thinking. Because look, I love Reed Blankenship, and I happen to think that they're going to pay him, but I am cognizant of what's coming on and who you have to pay. Cooper, Quignon, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. Now Jalen Hunt is turning into like all these different pieces. It wouldn't blow my mind if they didn't sign Reed Blankenship. I wonder.
I'm going to give another not so bold prediction.
All right, let's hear it.
Reed Blankenship gets his extension before week 1.
Nice.
Chris, you know how they do that? And 1 year it was Jordan Mailata. They always do one extension, usually a couple days before the regular season. Maybe that's going to be Reed this year. That's my prediction.
I like that. I'll take that.
I can see that. Maybe Reed, maybe I don't know. I think it's going to be a couple guys. You see, like you normally go up, like you could tell it's a theme during the day when we get these certain guys here. Like I saw a couple weeks ago, when the cornerbacks they were there.
Oh yeah, you can predict the themes are easy to predict these days.
Oh yeah, I think there might be a thing where you see maybe you see Jordan, maybe you see Nolan. Talk's there. Talk is definitely going.
Yeah. Reed called Sidney Brown Crash Bandicoots. I'm surprised. I'm surprised his style of play doesn't resonate more in Philadelphia. Like, he just hair's on fire. Now, I think a lot of it is he was hurt last year. He barely played. But if you go back to his rookie season, there were those little pockets that most notably the 99-yard interception return against Arizona. I mean, that dude, people should stop forgetting about him.
I don't think they forget about him. It's just tough with this. Like when you had CJ and when you had and you had Reed, it's just like where are you going to put him at? It was one of those things. And then I think his game resonates enough. I think it's the fact that you just don't see him when he wasn't available for so long. I mean, early in the season, he was still recovering from the knee. So then by then, like you're so used to say, okay, these are going to be our guys that we're going to see on the field. So you do that. And then when you look at the rest of, sorry, the slackness. And then when you look at what he does with special teams, yeah, okay, that's nice. He's a smasher. We've seen the fight. Remember, we've seen the fight. So he has all the. I don't think they forgot. It's just one of those things like there wasn't any spot for.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if he has the discipline that Vic likes. He's kind of a
that could be an issue a little bit too.
Yeah. Which but there's a give and take if you go to see. I mean, let's be honest. CJ's not the most disciplined player in the world, but he makes freaking plays.
I forget who said it, but somebody really was. I forget where I heard it from. But somebody was really true saying, "Listen, not the system that we see, from what it shows and what Vic teaches and what's in the actual playbook, what you see does not 100% translate to what people see on the field. What have you? Guys
I think that was Cooper and somebody was talking about exciting mics. I did see that clip. I think Cooper was talking to Zach about that. Yeah, their coverage is so freaking complicated. I think it's so layered. And if you just watch clips or you just watch film, and like there's a lot of match coverage stuff on the Eagles, which people think is man-to-man, but isn't man-to-man. And you got to carry a guy through a certain zone. That was the most impressive part of that defense, that young guys could pick out all the communication and all the intricacies of a Vic Fangio zone scheme. That was impressive.
It is really like bunch. It's fun when you look at these playbooks and you look at especially a bunch, when you see all okay, if this guy goes here, this guy goes here. It's a lot more like that can be really confusing in itself. Then you add what Vic has to say. If you have a bunch of Vic system, it's like, you need. I feel like these guys need like a master. That's why I think when you look at the evaluation process, they go after certain types of guys because they can pick it up. They have that football IQ. You need it in the system. It's not like for defensive linemen, it's like, okay, rush passer, but we see in this one, you got to be able to decide when to go out in your zone, what have you. For secondary guys or linebackers, good luck. And so I think that's a lot of things for that. It's very important for them to do that. It's a tough system. Very
true. Yeah, no doubt. Chris, let's go over to the offensive side, man. Kevin Patullo. How you feeling about Kevin Patullo post spring work here, pre-training camp? You think he's got a good chance to improve this offense? What do you think? What do you think the offense looks like this year? How different does it look? What are your thoughts on Kevin Patullo right now?
I think we'll still see. I think it'll be close to. I think we'll see a little bit, few wrinkles. Nothing dramatically different. But I think it's one of the things I wouldn't be surprised if they try to take a couple more shots here or there. Because with Kellen is everything built, Kellen, a lot of things was layered. And I don't think we saw the true Kellen offense when we were here.
No. Well, not the previous incarnation.
Yeah, no. So I think you'll see a lot of layers in terms of that. Maybe I think we'll see some stuff where they play off the play action a little bit more. I wouldn't be surprised with that because they know in the teams with Barkley and selling out, everybody they start seeing it more a little bit more. I think they do it a little more. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried. We know the RPO is important as part of his offense, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw wrinkles off of that. But I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think we'll see a market change. Like, wow, they're running the run and shoot. They're going 4 or 5 wide all the time or something like that. And I don't think it'll be anything different.
Run and shoot.
The J gun. There you go. I can see something like that for. All right, put 4 or 5 wide receivers out.
Pistol. Let's go pistol all day.
I wish they did it more last year, but I think that would have made it even more effective. But.
Not with Brett Toth snapping the football.
I think that experiment with him at center needs to go. I know he's versatile.
Yeah, it's funny because he is very versatile. Stout loves that guy.
Yeah,
he's got violent hands, evidently, but he can't snap the football. I mean, we went through this a couple of years ago with Marcus Mariota. I felt bad for Marcus. It was like he was playing shortstop before he got to play quarterback because he'd have to get the snap, and then he would have to play quarterback. And they eventually had to bring in Josh Andrews, as you remember, just to get like valuable second-team reps. Now they have Drew Kendall. Just let him do
it. Yeah. Well, this is where Bill McMahon, this will be kind of nice right now. Something like that. Yeah. It's not that sort of, but yeah, it's I look at it like Tulsa tackle. I'm sorry, he's a tackle or guard. If anything, it starts after a while. It starts to hinder what you can do. Like it throws off the practice time and it hinders everything else. Guys get frustrated. At this time, I think it's more of okay. It's nice that he can do it and he can do it well consistently, and he can block okay enough to do it. So that snap things,
Yeah.
it needs to change.
It's funny how he was talking about that when he drafted Kendall. He's like, it's such an unnatural trait for people to snap the football. And then they go back to using red. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. But anyway, that's too deep in the weeds. That's not going to be important for the Eagles because Cam Jurgens eventually is going to be healthy. And he's a Pro Bowl center, so you're going to have no issues there. But the health of Jahad Campbell and Nakobe Dean is interesting on defense from the standpoint of Vic is on record saying probably not going to see Campbell until sometime in August. Now, that could be August 1st. It could be August 15th. It could be August 30th. We don't know. But at least there's some positive. Nakobe, it's probably going to start the season on the PUP list. So it's been the spring, and I'm sure it will be the summer of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's going to be probably a week one starter, Chris, at least for a few weeks. How much confidence do you have that he can hold down the fort? At least maybe not as good as Oren Burks, but in Oren Burks-like fashion.
I put him on his level a little bit higher. That's the thing.
Ooh, higher.
I think he's up there. His anticipation, his ability. I love how he was able to read that. Like he got it from somebody like with his same name. I don't know what happened there. Like he got that instinct.
He got it from somebody. I don't remember that guy.
Yeah,
he got it from somebody.
You got. Can't wait, June. But I look at the way. The one thing that I thought he impressed me in the way he improved was his coverage. He's still not a guy. He's still not a guy. I'm saying, okay, I want him on the field every 3 downs, especially on third downs and do that. But I think he's somebody where if you have him on first or second down, he'll hold his own pass coverage. And then the third down, you can bring in your exotics and all that looks and everything else like that. Bring somebody else in, what have you, like another safety, and have him back that way. But I look at the way he fills gaps. The way in practice watching, like the way he fills blitzes and blitz gaps, and he's anticipating times it. I like what he can do. Is he? I don't know with this roster and this team if he could be the starter long term here, just because they have so many pieces now, and the John Campbell thing really throws it. That's a guy where you look at a depth piece when you start looking like, all right, he's going to find a job somewhere. He's going to be starting this league somewhere. I just don't know if it's going to be because long term consistently here. I just don't know if it's going to be here because of what the pieces they have on that. I think for a few games he can hold his own there.
Oh, I just thought I have a specific question I have to ask you. For those who don't know, Chris is the greatest phone photographer of all time. He's a tech person. By the way, we can't figure out the damn TVs when you're not there.
That's a tech person. John, that's a compliment that makes up for my grill bashing.
Yeah. Oh no, he's a phenomenal phone, and half of it he knows how to adjust the phone to have the greatest. And you got to teach me how to do that. But
all about frames.
It's all about. He's phenomenal at it. Now, here's the reason I bring that up. Back on the first OTA practice, it was raining, so they were inside. And it's a lot easier to see the defense inside than it is outside when they're basically over at Citizens Bank Park. And you need Chris's phone to even get any even decent pictures. Here now, Nolan Smith wasn't. He was working in individual drills, but obviously he's still coming back from the torn triceps. So here's what I want to know from you, because you have the phone and you can see where other people can't. Did Zach Bond spend time with Jeremiah Washburn when the Eagles were doing special teams drills there? Because he did it in that practice. They went off to do some special teams, And all of a sudden, it was Nolan Smith and Zach Vaughn working with Jeremiah Washburn when they were doing all the special teams drills.
He just saw that last year.
And last year he
That's
did. What I'm asking, because I didn't notice it.
Yeah,
and I know you probably got. So that's what I wanted to know, if that was new, or if that's an expansion, or they were already doing that last year.
It didn't happen a lot. It happened more early than it was toward the middle of the year. But he talks to Washburn because they still like to run him off the edge in case you're doing that. And you're thinking, if you have, and the more and more you see it, that if you have Campbell now, you can kind of use them interchangeable in that way. Like I could see this defense looking in like a 3-3-5-ish type of look, where you really don't know, or like a 5-2, where you really don't know which way the guys are coming from. You could rush Vaughn off the edge, you could rush Campbell off the edge. You could. I've really put, and this is maybe a little too much for the weeds. You have Carter on that right side, and then you put, say, Campbell, and then you put Bonnie outside. So you got 3 edge rushers, 3 really good pass rushers on one side, and you might think, okay, I could shift the whole line this way. Well, yeah, you got that's another. You got Nolan Smith on the other side. You give him one-on-ones, and you let him go that way too. There's so many different variations you can look off of this and use the personnels and their strengths. That the fact that you now have 2 guys who can play on the ball and off the ball, you can just play games left or right with what you're seeing and moving around. Almost like you move, like even if they do that the old Jets amoeba thing where you start moving them around, and you can't figure out which way they're going. So it's tough for an offensive line to set and go, okay, this guy here. So I wouldn't be surprised they're continuing doing that again. Like it's good to have those guys.
I definitely think when Campbell's up to speed, I definitely think you're going to see the amoeba thing. I think you're going to see the A-gap stuff. I think you're going to see one guy rush, one guy drop, and try to be interchangeable that way. I think you're going to see a lot of that.
Inside stunts with the guy, maybe Nolan Smith dropping back once. It's looking at like this is why it's so fun to think about what you can do. And I'm sure with Vic's mind is crazy, so you don't know what he's doing. It's probably something like, what? Won't be surprised we see a lot of the San Fran playbook put in a little bit more too.
It's going to be Andrew Van Ginkel, baby.
Hey, Vic is the guy. Besides, probably let's say, Vic is the guy who will get you paid if you do what he asks. Look at that contract he got.
I brought that up about Jair Alexander. I'm like, hey, he might want to come 1 year here, get play in the Fangio system, even if it's not man covered. Probably go get paid.
Van Ginkel got paid coming off a Lisfranc injury, and then he got sort of the Saquon Barkley treatment. They gave him another year because he proved he was healthy, and they gave him a shitload of money. So Vic got him paid. But he's like a second team All-Pro last year. He was phenomenal last year. So if that develops and they can get that type of player, and that's what they're looking for and it might be Campbell or Vaughn, but I think it's more Campbell because Vaughn, if Campbell's playing, Vaughn's got to play Mike linebacker, and that limits you at least a little bit because you have so much other responsibilities. But we'll see how that shakes out. And this year, Nakobe is in the mix as well when he comes back. Hopefully he's healthy. But long term, I don't see much of a path to Nakobe Dean being here, unfortunately, because he's a heck of a player, but just too many injuries. And if he plays well again, it's going to be too expensive, especially when you have Campbell and Small Munden. I don't see how he comes back.
It's a tough road. It really is a tough one. And I'm thinking like, okay, if they renegotiate even player contracts and everything they have, but you're repaying all these extra guys as well too. And you can throw out the old adage we used to say, like, I don't pay linebacker what he did now, but now you paid the linebacker. So you're heavy at that position. You got some other needs you're gonna have to do too. So yeah, I think this is a good, this year is a good time for Nakobe, not only because it's a free agent afterwards, but I think we see a good version, still a good version of Nakobe in terms of that. And I think he's going to be extra motivated in a way. I mean, especially for a guy like I've heard, I talked to somebody before the draft saying he's a one contract guy because of the injuries. That's why he's really that. But he's played himself beyond that to the point you're like, you can't resign anybody. But Nakobe, he's your heart too.
By the way, I was right. Yeah, and Vic said he's the middle linebacker basically when he's healthy for this year, obviously. But I was right about Trotter last week, so I happened to look at the PFF rankings. Zach Bond was number 1. He was just slightly ahead of Fred Warner. Oren Burks was number 4 behind Zach Bond, Fred Warner, and Bobby Wagner. Now, limited snaps, obviously, but number 4. Nakobe was number 12 in the entire NFL. And even if you want to go back, you know who number 20 was, Chris Franklin, in the entire NFL?
No.
Christian Ellis. Christian Ellis.
That's another one that got away because he was playing like when he got his opportunity.
He's a great special teams player. Great special teams player. What I remember, and I was in this category, I think most of you came into the spring last year and said, this is one of the worst linebacker rooms in the NFL. Everybody thought that. Who's going to play? Nakobe had never played before. Vic was talking about he had never played before, really. Injuries. Zach Bond never played the position before. 5 years in New Orleans. Handful of snaps, all ball. Oren Burks, he's bouncing around from Green Bay to San Francisco. We thought, that's a pretty good backup linebacker. Then he got cut. Remember, he got cut.
Yes.
And they brought him back. Nobody. We don't want Oren Burks. It's amazing how quickly things can change in the NFL. Amazing.
Yeah, it goes with in Eli's things. It goes with once a day. It goes to coaching, and it goes to at least that opportunity too. And you look at these guys like I held my breath when he said Oren was coming in there. Like when the coach went down, like, all right, which safeties want to play a little bit more linebacker now?
I was with you. I said, oh my God, remember what Kansas City did to Oren Burks in the Super Bowl when Drake Greenlaw went down? Yeah. They just put him in a blender.
Still one of the weirdest injuries ever. But yeah, the fact I think he used that as motivation. Oren's a cool guy. Like he relied on a lot that know-how he had, and he's been around the block for a little bit. I think he's another example of how players fit the scheme. Like he's another guy. Is one of those things where I see him, if he's in that scheme, I think he's really good. Or now I'm like, all right, cool. If he goes away, let's see what he can really do on top of that. So yeah,
Vic's great. That's what I say. Vic's great, man. He's going to get the most out of you. Period.
If you buy in, like Chris stated, if you listen and you buy in, you're right. Chris, we appreciate you joining today, brother. As always, great talking to you here on Birds 365. Rumor is you've been upgraded now to the Hall of Fame Grilling Club. So congratulations on that.
I don't know about grilling, but he's in the Hall of Fame Photography Club. I'll tell you that.
Hey,
I appreciate it.
Chris, we appreciate you joining, man. Make sure everybody follows him at C. Franklin News and read all his work at NJ.com. Chris, we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys. You have a good one now.
There's Chris Franklin joining us here on Birds 365 to close out this week, this Football Friday edition of the show. Great stuff as always. Johnny Mac. John, great week. And we have about 5 weeks ahead of us, brother, where we will prepare and get ready for training camp. I'm going to force you to do lists and rankings and everything. And you're going to
I did come up. Well, already somebody, maybe we can do a segment of what annoys me the most that day. I got, boy, man, I used to have this editor back in the days when, you could rip people to shreds with no worries about HR and things like that, especially in this industry, boy, but anyway. So somebody wrote, and I'm not going to say who, I won't say who, but it's one of these aggregator articles, and somebody went, it's not a bad idea. It was worst spot on roster basically for each team. What's the worst spot on the roster? And for the Eagles, it was Kevin Petula. Now, can anybody see what's wrong with that?
Guy's never called. I mean, he's never been in the role in his life.
He's not on the fucking roster. He's a coach.
Well, are they including coaches in their entire exercise?
Well,
they would have to.
Then you don't say roster. Anyway, that's a pet peeve because if you do that with an editor, an old school editor,
they'll rip you.
Oh my Lord!
Is that where you got your like your former first round pick 1-2 was from an old school editor?
Yeah.
Because I see that all the time now, and now I always think of you when I see it. Because
everybody does it.
Everybody does it. Like even the biggest writers do it. You know, I was reading something on NFL.com, and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, stuff like that bothers the shit out of me.
Yeah,
which it should. Everybody does it. It's like nobody's a former first.
Zeal says journalism is dead. John, do you feel journalism is dying?
It's not dying. There's still good journalism, but there's a lot. You know, the industry has been hurt, to say the least, by, unprofessional people having platforms. And as silly as that stuff might sound to people outside the industry, it's like, it's very important to get things correct. And I try to, when I do, everybody gets things wrong. Everybody, I think that mistake.
Conflating too, like, not everybody is a reporter or is trying.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, there are people who are entertainers, or there are people who are aggregators. Like,
and it bleeds over. Like, I report and I do a show, and sometimes I speculate on the show, and people conflate that, and I try to split it as best as possible, but it's difficult. So everything.
I think you do a pretty good job. I mean, I think we make it pretty clear when you're reporting and when you're not.
Sometimes I get caught, and sometimes I even say things like that because it's part of former first round pick. Like, he's always a first round. He's a first round pick. And you say 2019 first round pick. If you want to be correct, that's all, which is old school editors would be sticklers about that kind of stuff.
Right. You got to be correct.
Yeah. Which doesn't exist that much anymore. As I bring up, all right, it's fine if you want to say the biggest weakness on the Philadelphia Eagles is Kevin Patullo. I don't agree, but that's fine to say. But don't say biggest roster, problem. He's not on the roster,
right?
That's all. The stuff like that. But as far as there's plenty of good journalism. One of the problems is, like Seth Wickersham, you have to have time to do good journalism.
Yeah,
and everybody wants to, like. If you do something like it takes weeks and often months, and you have to double source and triple source stuff, there's plenty of that goes on, but you have to dig for it. And a lot of people, and I'm in this category, and I hate it. One of the things I envy about the Inquirer people, or, back when the Athletic was doing more.
Yeah, they have more time. It's like 1-2 articles a week. Yeah.
Yeah. And they have more time to do some actual reporting, and I envy that. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's easier said than done for companies that pay, because they just need.
Yeah, right. It's just not how JAKIB's built, and I don't think it's how Sports Illustrated's really built either. You got, what I mean, we're rapid fire, and we got to get things posted quick.
Yeah, and more people are like that, and obviously that is problematic for a lot of reasons, but it's the reality of the world.
Yep, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. Your final thoughts from an Eagles perspective on this Football Friday here. It's June 13th, Friday the 13th. I didn't even realize that until right now. Friday the 13th. I never cared about stuff like that, but for those who do, there you go. All right, don't do anything bad today, or don't put yourself in a compromising position. John, your final thoughts on today's show.
I'm not superstitious. I say that all the time. So people say, don't say that about the Eagles. Yeah, I have no control over the Eagles. So yeah. Same thing with Friday the 13th. Bad thing might happen, but not because it's Friday the 13th.
Right. Exactly. Johnny Mac, great show, brother. We will catch you later on Monday, brother. Thanks for doing it this week. And we'll talk to you Monday.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Johnny Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, joining us here on Birds 365. Great show today. Great week of shows, really. As here we are.